Do you have items in your craft stash that are neglected and unused, but you can't bear to get rid of them? Welcome to Use It or Lose It, a weekly YouTube series where I'll dive into the products that you have lying around in your craft room and the products I have lying around in mine. After I've created something, I'll decide if I think I'll use it again or if it needs to give up that precious space in my stash, and I hope you'll play along. Hey there, it's Jen, and welcome to another episode of Use It or Lose It. Today I am going to be using the stash kit that I created a couple of episodes back. I'll leave a link in the video description if you want to check that out, but I'm going to be talking about eyelets today. And I will be honest with you and tell you that I purged my eyelets long ago. And so I bought these specifically for this video, but I'm excited to show you what I'm going to do with them. And I will definitely have lots of ideas for you at the end as well, because I know a lot of you have eyelets out there. And if you're not familiar with eyelets, if you're new on the scrapbooking scene, maybe you don't have these, they are little kind of grommets. They're a little circle piece and they have a hole in them, and you flatten the back on the back of the paper and it holds it in place. And so I have my tools to be able to flatten the backs of these. Now if you have a crocodile, you can use that as well, but I'm going to be putting these in weird places on my paper, and so I needed the tools to do it with. So this is the thing that punches the hole, and then this is the thing that flattens the back. You can see this little thing just slides into the back and you can flatten it down, and then I have my hammer. I've got a mat here to work on top of so that I make sure that I don't damage my work surface, although it doesn't really matter. But basically what I wanted to do is use this corkboard paper, and I'm using some photos of my daughter doing a school report, and so I have just 3 photos, and I'm going to create kind of like a, this is a corkboard, so I kind of envision sticking things on it, but instead of doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create little strings where I'm going to hang banners from them, and I'm going to put them in between some eyelets. And so I'm probably going to use the dark gold color that I have here and go ahead and put those on. So I'll go ahead and get started, but I'm going to use these banners from Tonic. They are banner dies, Bunting dies, and they have all different kinds, but I'm just going to use the kind that are just the shape, not these fancy shapes in between, but just the outline of the shape, so you can see that here and here. And use those, and I'm going to also cut my photos into banner shapes as well, and I'm going to string them across using the eyelets. So I'll go ahead and get started and talk you through my process, and then be sure to stay till the end of the video if you want to see more ideas on ways to use the eyelets. Alright, so I'm starting by cutting down my photos because I want to create banners with them as well. And so I'm just cutting off what I feel like is unimportant to the photo and leaving as much as I can. And then I'm just going to cut up the center of the photo and then cut from the sides to that center cut mark. So just kind of creating that banner edge on each of the photos. So now what I'm going to do is I've got my Spellbinders machine, this is a new machine to me, the Spellbinders Platinum 6. I'll have a video coming soon about this machine and why I like it, but I love that it folds up, so that made me happy. Anyway, so I'm cutting these dies out. Again, these dies are from Tonic, and they are just banners, and I like these ones because they cut both sides of the banner, and then they also like create a crease in the middle so that when it's really easy to fold them in half, and so that was nice. So I'm just using some different papers from the kit that I had created. So that Pretty Little Studio Vellum is the first thing that I cut, and then the paper that I used in my first layout using this kit was that basic gray paper, and I used some leftovers of that, and then I also used the center of another paper that I have in the kit, and then that striped Dear Lizzie paper, and then the one that's kind of like tan with the geometric print in white on top of it is one that I used in the first video that I created as well. So I just cut one of each kind of banner. So there's 3 different kinds of banners, one with the regular banner tail, and then one that is just like the triangle, and then one that's kind of like a I don't know what to call that shape, but the one that has just the triangle edge at the bottom and it's square at the top. And so I cut one of each from each different pattern paper. So on each row, there's going to be a photo and then 5 little banner pieces, one of each style. Hope that makes sense. Anyway, I found that after I cut them out, I needed a couple more. So I just grabbed my diamond press little tiny die cut machine, which just sits on my desk, and cut a few of those out. I get a lot of questions about that. You can get those on HSN, or I think you can get them on diamondpress.com. I will try to link to it in the video description. But it's a nice little cutting machine. So here what I'm doing is I'm creating some marks where I want to put my eyelets. So I'm going to do 3 rows. So I know that I need to poke 6 holes. And basically what I did was I measured at the 3, 6, and 9 inch mark, and then I did it an inch in. So that's pretty much what I did. Now, here was a problem that I ran into. This mat that I'm using, it has foam on the bottom of it, and so it gives a little bit of cushion, and so it doesn't work as well. It's a little too much cushion, so I needed something more flat and hard to do this on. So I was having a hard time getting the holes to poke through, and you'll see when I turn this over to flatten the eyelets, I have a struggle too. So basically what you do is you stick the eyelet into the hole that you created, and then you turn it over and put the little tool on the back, and that flattens it down. Well, I had a major struggle, so I went and I found, I just used an old cutting plate that's from my die cut machine, an old, you'll see right here, I'm using an old cutting plate. And sorry for the shakiness. I wanted to show you kind of what it looks like up close, but sorry for the shakiness because every time I pound, the whole the whole table moves. And so I should have skipped over this for you, but I did not. So you are welcome to view the earthquake in my scrap room. But it works much better now that I have this harder surface to pound down into. And I did find later that certain colors were softer metals than the others. So the silver ones were the easiest to pound down, and these are the kind of antiqued gold. So what I'm doing now is I'm just taking some twine and I am threading it through, and I'm just going to tape it on the back for now, just using some washi tape. I do end up needing something a little bit more sturdy to hold that, but for now this works. And you could also just tie it on the back if you wanted to do that. But I wanted there to be a little bit of flexibility for me to move things around if I needed to, and I wasn't sure how taut I wanted the string to be. I didn't know if I wanted it to be really tight or if I wanted it to be a little loose so it hangs, and so for the moment I'm just stringing it through and then adhering it with the washi tape. So at this point I'm just going to kind of play around. I know that I want the photos in that order because my daughter is on the left-hand side of the photo in the middle, and so I wanted her to be on the left-hand side of the page. And then in the bottom photo, she's on the right-hand side of the page looking to the left, and so I wanted that to be on the right. And so it just made sense for me to put the photos in these areas because I often use the photos as kind of a, like where your eyeline is going, where the person in the photo's eyeline is going as a determining factor for where I place my photos on my layouts. So what I'm doing now is I am just creating a little crease line on each of the photos, just 1/4 of an inch, so I can fold them down so they look like they're folded onto the banner just like the other pieces. And I'm just going to use some double-sided sticky tape from Thermoweb. It's iCraft double-sided adhesive. I can't remember what it's called, but it's just, you know, the kind of tape that you can just rip off, kind of like score tape. And I'm just using that and putting it on each of the banners, and I'm making it so that the banners are able to still move on the string just in case I need to squish them over, which I'm happy that I did because I did need to move some stuff around. So, and the vellum is thick enough, or it's, I don't know, the vellum, you couldn't see the adhesive through it at all, so I was really happy about that. The photos were a little bit trickier to bend over, and I will end up using some additional adhesive on those later, which you'll see in the video. But basically, I'm just stringing the banners onto each string, and I'm trying to kind of, you can see that I bounced the photos back and forth on the page. I'm trying to bounce the other patterns and colors that way too. So you'll see that bright pink stripe, which is the next kind of most eye-catching pattern, you can see it bounces back and forth as well. And then you've got the green pattern, which is at the very left on the top, at the right on the middle, and then at the kind of in the middle on the bottom. So I'm just kind of trying to spread out the patterns and colors, and also the shapes. I didn't want two shapes next to each other that were exactly the same, and so I'm being just conscious and aware of that as well. So you could put as many or as few banners as you wanted, make these big or tiny. I think you could do more rows than what I did if you wanted to. You could do it a little more haphazard. You could make the strings not go straight across. You could have them going all different ways to make kind of like a French, is it French memory board or emery? I don't know. You know those boards that have the ribbon where it crisscrosses and you can slide pictures in? You could do something like that as well. I think that would be fun. At this point, I've decided that I wanted to use the washi tape because it has a ruler on it, and this is a school themed layout, so I thought it was perfect. And so what I'm doing is I'm just folding the washi tape in half over the banner and cutting a little banner tail into it. And that works out really nicely. I put 2 on the top row, and then I put 1 on the bottom and the second rows. Because that's all that would fit. In fact, I almost couldn't fit 1 on the bottom row, so I was a little bit worried about it. But it ended up working fine, and I did cut down one of my photos a little bit, but that was before I glued them down. So I'm adding extra adhesive on the backs of these because I just adhered it with washi tape before, and so I'm just putting a little extra adhesive after I get everything where I want it. I'm putting extra adhesive on the back so that it really stays in place. And I do pull the strings pretty tight across just so that the banners don't run into each other, because the photos are a little bit large, and so I don't want them to run into the next row. So here I am taking one of the silk screens that I included in my kit that I wanted to use, and it's a heart. I did use stars on the last one with some ink, and this time I'm using some paint. I'm using that turquoise color. I mixed it with some white paint, and then I'm putting a tiny bit of the yellow Distress Oxide in it because I want it to be a little bit more green to match the papers. And I'm basically just going to do that on 3 of the banners. I'll put a little heart shape, and it doesn't work perfectly, but I just end up going with it and being fine with it. It leaked under a little bit because I didn't press down the silk screen enough, but you know, I live with it and it's fine. It's not perfect, but it's okay. So I put it just on 3 different types of banners where I thought it would look nice, and you need hardly any paint for this, so I didn't mix up very much, as you probably saw. And so now there's 3 little hearts, and I decide to kind of put hearts everywhere. So I also have some chipboard hearts that I had included in this kit, and I will pull those out. And then there are some stickers that are hearts too, and I will add those as well. So you'll see that here in just a second. So at this point, I'm kind of looking through my embellishments, trying to decide what will work. I really like that rubber banner that says love you, and there's an empty space on the top of my daughter's desk on the top photo, so I'm going to use that there. And then here's where I decide to bring in 3 of the little chipboard hearts, and I'm going to go with the ones that have the text print on them. They just fit well here, and I had 3 of them in the same size, and so I end up putting them on all of the same pattern. So I put all of them on that kind of tan background pattern paper, and then I'm using 3 little stickers from the basic gray sticker sheet that I included, and they are sketchy little hearts, and they I think are really cute, and I like the way they turned out. I'm trying to make sure I have enough of the correct letters to spell out what I want to. This is a report that they do on counties, and so she did Emery County for her report, and so I wanted to spell out the word county in these painted alphabet stickers from Felicity Jane, and I had what I needed to spell that, and I was happy about that. And I'm trying to decide what I want to use for the words Emery and report, and I decide to just use a Sharpie and cut out my own handwriting. And I do this, I wouldn't say like frequently, but I've done it several times. I really like doing this when I don't quite have what I need. And I wanted a white background behind my letters because I wanted it to pop off the back of the paper, because I did include some black alphabet stickers in this kit that I created, but I just felt like they needed to pop a little more, and so I liked the idea of having them on the white. So I'm just writing the words out again and again until I get one that I like, and it took me a while to get the word report. I don't know, I just wasn't liking the way I was writing it. And so I'm going to grab another piece of paper here in a second. I'm going to write it again, and eventually I'll find one that works well enough, and I'm just going to cut it out. I'm using some scissors from Close to My Heart that are fine tipped, and they work really well for fussy cutting like this. And so I am just cutting the letters out. And you can see that when you do something like this, I think you can use anyone can use their handwriting on their layout and do this technique, I feel like. It's simple, and it looks like, if you use a Sharpie, it looks like a sticker when you cut it out. It kind of does. And so I really like the way that this looks. So I'm going to use my T-square ruler to just make sure I get the word county on there straight. And then I will add the words Emory and report after, and it doesn't really matter if those are straight to me, but the word county I did want to be straight and centered. I'm just adding a little bit of adhesive in the center of those words so that the kind of tails of the letters can overlap the word county. And then I'm going to add the Love You banner to the top of that top photo. I guess first I'm going to add in some of these houses. So this is another element that I had included in the kit. And I did use these on the first layout as well. So I was proud of myself for using the houses on 2 layouts. And I just felt like people live in counties, so I could use the house. I don't know. I feel like they worked here. And obviously the colors matched pretty good. So I'm taking some staples, just my tiny attacher with some silver staples in it, and I'm just stapling on some of the elements and just putting staples in some of the tags just for a little added interest. I'm also going to put it into that banner shape there, and I'm pretty close to being done. At this point, I'm just trying to figure out my journaling, and I want to journal on those white lined pieces. I specifically cut those out so I could journal on them. So I'm just writing a little blurb on one of them, and then the rest of the journaling on that second one. And then even though I put the heart on the top one, I'm going to stamp the date on that one so they all have something in common. And I will add some white splatters after I stamp the date, and that is going to finish this layout. So I really like the way that the eyelets kind of contain things here. I think they look really nice. I think that you could do this with shaped eyelets if you have shapes that you want to use up. I thought about adding in these enamel dots, but they just didn't quite work. So that's why I decided to go for the white ink. I'm using Distress ink in Distress stain in Picket Fence, and that is going to finish this off. I'll come back with a few more ideas for you. Okay, so I wanted to show you a few other ways that you can use eyelets. Now this isn't the best example, but I already had it, so I wanted to show you so I didn't have to do another one. I didn't apply these eyelets correctly, but they are good reinforcers. So if you have a mini album or something that you're going to put in a regular album that you would like a little bit more stability for, they work great as a reinforcer. Now, as I mentioned, mine have come off of this album because I didn't apply them correctly, but they work well for that. Now, a couple other ideas I have for you. This one might seem obvious, but adding them to pre-made tags is a great way to use them. It just gives the tag a little something extra. It makes it feel finished. It makes it feel more sturdy. I don't know, these were just plain tags before, but now they have this great little detail on them. And then I also, this was just a die cut, but I made it into a tag by adding it there. So think about those kind of things. Now these are from the kit, so I will be adding these back into my kit to use. The other thing I thought would be a good idea, and I'll add this back into my kit too, is to use them as a bullet point for journaling. So you can use it as a list. So each one of these is a little bullet for a list that I can create for journaling. You could also do something like this where you have a line on one side and a line on the other side, and you kind of match things up. So maybe there's a word that goes next to each one of them, and then you can match them up. So there's a string that comes from here to here, and one from here to here, and one from here to here, or whatever. So that could be a fun way to do some sort of matching, or you could make it look like laces, like shoelaces, and put the laces crossed like that. So that's another thing you could do. If you have a young child, you could do this in an activity book where you have them actually lace. I don't know if you've seen those like quiet books or whatever that you can have them actually do the little activities, but that's a good activity for small children. Another idea that I had was to incorporate them into an existing pattern. So this is a polka dot patterned paper, and I just put the I want to say enamel dots or grommets now, and I was just saying what they were. Eyelets, you can put the eyelets in place of some of the polka dots. So I didn't replace all of the dots here, but just some of them. And so I think that's a fun look too. And what you could try to do if you wanted to was to put a pop of color behind it, and that will show through. So it's not like a whole bunch. You can have bigger eyelets than what I have here, but you don't see a ton, but there is a little pop of that color. So that could be a fun look as well. And so you could incorporate this onto a large, a large area, or you could just do something small like what I've done here is about 3 by 4. And so that's another idea for you for using your eyelets. Now, if you have more ideas on ways to use your eyelets, I hope that you'll share them in the Facebook group. I'm sure a lot of us need a lot of ideas for using up eyelets. So go ahead and throw them out there, throw some pics into the Facebook group. I'll leave a link in the video description. The group is called Crafty Use It or Lose It, and we are having a lot of fun sharing projects over there using stuff in our stash. So I did also want to say that I had already lost all of the eyelets in my stash, so if I wasn't doing this video, I probably wouldn't have bought more. But I really do like the way that they look on these tags, so I might save these just to put on tags and remind myself to use them specifically for tags. Although the page that I made today was a fun way to use them, and I really like that idea, and maybe I would try it again. So this is all of the eyelets I have in my stash, and I think I'll keep it to that. I'm not going to get any more, but I will keep these for adding to tags because I really, really think that it gives a nice finished look to the tags.
So will you take up the challenge? Join us on Facebook in the Crafty Use It or Lose It group and tag your photos on social media, #CraftyUseItOrLoseIt. Can't wait to see what you create. So what do you have to use or lose? Leave a comment and you may see it in an upcoming episode. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future Use It or Lose It videos. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you again next week.